Call the June 6th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Ahern,
Here.
Bathke,
Here.
Janezer,
Here.
Heisler,
Here.
Staber, Vincent, Willer.
Here.
And may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
Motion?
And I'll second that
A
motion.
second. All in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, it's approved. Item number 3, the Aldi preliminary site plan. Can I have the staff presentation?
Yes, thank you. We've been talking with representatives for Aldi for quite some time about finding some property in the city. So we're pretty pleased that they've found a spot in town. And so they are looking to construct 20,664 retail goods establishments, a little over 4.5 acres. It's on Ranchaw Way, just north of Penn Street, so it'd be across the street from Page Way, that signalized intersection. Currently zoned C2A, and so a retail goods establishment is a permitted use, basically like a store or a grocery store or something like that. Future land use map designation is urban high intensity, so the zoning is consistent with the land use, so no problems there. It's kind of you would expect commercial development here along Ranchaw Way. Here is the site plan as you see it. Just kind of has 3 entrances. One, again, the signalized intersection there. One coming up along Mead Drive to the west, which is currently a dead end. They are working with the current property owner to have a cross-access easement to the north. And Ranchaw Way is a limited access road, so there's a limited number of accesses. Pasha Way, the location of the one that they're showing to the north there. And then there's one more north to the north. So it's kind of looks like it may be setting up as kind of a frontage road kind of scenario with that limited type access. So shows you how the property is set up on the west and then the landscaping plan on the east. Here are some renderings of what the building would look like. The top is the south. So we'll go from top to bottom. So it's south, north, east, and then west. So I think the better looking elevation kind of faces Ranchaw Way, which is pretty nice. So they've been excellent to work with. Again, we're kind of in the preliminary concept, but still working through some of those details. I think they anticipate that they want to be under construction this year, which is great and open next year. But I can let them talk a little bit more about that. But let's see here. We did find that it meets the approval standards set forth in the code, and staff recommends approval.
Great, thank you. And do we have an applicant presentation? If so, you can come to the podium and introduce yourself.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Valik with Ingene, civil engineer for the project on behalf of Aldi. It's not so much a formal presentation, but just to kind of go over the project a little bit briefly. We have been working with the city very diligently on the project, and we do have a nice new site plan that meets the city code and work great for Aldi as well. It's a great location in the city, and for the future as well. If you guys have any questions, we'd love to answer them. Very excited to join the North Liberty community and move forward with the project.
I think just one popped up in my head now that I thought, but for those of you who've been to the Coralville store, I think it's similar, but maybe a little bigger, I think is what you guys had mentioned.
It is similar. The exterior elevations are the newest, latest and greatest Aldi prototype building. Square footage wise, I'm not sure if it's larger than the Coralville one, but it is bigger.
It is.
So it is the latest prototype, nationwide. So latest and greatest.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take some time now. Are there any public comments? If so, you can please come to the podium. If not, we'll then move to questions and comments from the commissioners. Any questions or comments?
No, my question was taken care of, the size of it in comparison. So That's it.
Great use of the space, liking to see that corridor continue to develop.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be great. With all the residential that's going to be happening up there, that'll be
Mhm.
helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the Rancho access, just to see how that was going to work out. It looks good.
Well, if there are no concerns or questions, I'd entertain a motion. We have a suggested one on, I think it's page 7 or 8, if anyone's interested.
Page 7, yep.
Sure. I move that the planning commission accept the listed finding and forward the preliminary site plan to the city council with a recommendation for approval.
Great, we have a motion.
I'll second.
Second from Janizer. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Heisler,
Aye.
Janizer,
Aye.
Willer,
Aye.
Ahern,
Aye.
Bafke.
Aye. Fantastic. All right, we'll move to item number 4, Water Tower Place preliminary site plan, the staff presentation.
Okay, thank you. So this is 15 units, and this is mostly 2 units, 2-unit dwellings, and one got squeezed down, so it's a 1-unit dwelling at the north end on 1.81 acres. So this is in the Water Tower Place development. Recently, we saw Lot 5, which is adjacent to Kansas Avenue, and so this is a little bit more interior. I would have frontage on Kansas Avenue as extended southerly from its current location. Current zoning is RM12, so obviously this type of development is permitted there. Land use is urban, high intensity, and so the zoning is consistent with the land use. Here are some renderings of the type of product that they're proposing. It is nice to see a 1-story product because I think we need more of that, especially as our population ages. But
Mhm.
I suppose they selected this location and kind of leapfrogged a little bit just because Madison Avenue is being constructed with subdivision improvements, so it just made sense. We do allow duplex units to have direct access onto public streets. We wouldn't for townhomes, which are 3 or more units, just to have all of those. So kind of made sense in this location. We did have one finding that it achieves consistency with approval standards, and staff does recommend you accept that listed finding and recommend approval to the city council.
Great, thank you. Do we have an applicant presentation tonight? Okay, thank you. Any public comments on item number 4? If not, we'll move to questions and comments by the commissioners.
No questions?
Great creative use. I was happy to see that put in there. All right, well then I'm open to a recommendation. We do have a sample on, or a suggested one on page 15.
Might be the only one with a working iPad right now.
I think you are.
I'll move that the planning commission accept the listed finding and forward the preliminary site plan to the city council with a recommendation for approval.
Motion,
I'll second the motion.
second by Willer. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Willer,
Aye.
Janizer,
Aye.
Bafke,
Aye.
Ahern,
Aye.
Heisler.
Aye.
Item number 5, warehouse building preliminary site plan, the staff presentation.
Okay, so this is out at the Diamond Dreams facility at the I-80 Industrial Park. And there's also a warehouse building on the east part of the property. But if you can see on the aerial, there's kind of a green space, kind of a hole in the donut, if you will. So they were anticipating development at some point in time. So this would be a 9,300 square foot warehouse building. Overall property size is just over 5 acres. Property zoned industrial, so warehouse is listed as a permitted use in the I-1 industrial in the I-1 district. The future land use, and I don't know if we've dealt with this land use yet, but this is our commercial flex industrial. I know Barry, I talked a bit about this during adoption of our comp plan, but this supports like a heavy commercial industrial. So obviously this is consistent. That might make a little more sense as we look for heavier commercial uses at some point in the future, but obviously zoning is consistent with land use. Here's how it kind of lays out with the rendering of the building. It's pretty much an industrial building. It's kind of hidden back behind the other building. So really looking for an elevated design wasn't really much of a staff concern. So didn't really have any concerns there. So Similar finding, achieves consistency with approval standards, and staff recommends you accept that listed finding and forward the request to the City Council with recommendation for approval.
Thank you. Do I have an applicant presentation on item 5? Please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Lacey Stutzman with MMS Consultants here on behalf of Diamond Ridge. Russ did a great job presenting, so I don't have anything to add, but I am here if you have any questions.
Thank you. Thank you. Do I have any public comments on item number 5? If not, we'll move to questions and comments from the commissioners. Seems very straightforward, consistent. These are the nice ones.
The heavy lifting is done.
Yes. All right. Well, I'm open to a motion then.
I'll move that the planning commission accept the listed finding and forward the preliminary site plan to city council with a recommendation for approval.
Have a motion.
I'll second.
Second, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Janizer,
Aye.
Ahern,
Aye.
Bathke,
Aye.
Willer,
Aye.
Heisler.
Aye.
Great. Thank you. Then we move to the latter portion of the agenda that has zoning map amendments. Item number 6, the public hearing on the zoning map, the first zoning map amendment. Russ?
Okay, so we continue to move on to quarter sections. So we're moving a little bit further east. And these were a couple of properties, again, I'll call it right sizing, but down zoning to make the zoning consistent with what the development property is basically already at. So this property right now currently zoned RM21. There's a fair amount that's zoned RM21 in that area, I think just to entice multifamily development. But the development of the parcel is actually 12 units to the acre would not make them non-conforming or anything like that, makes it conforming. So the future land use map designation is urban medium intensity. And so more of a medium at that 8 to 14 units to the acre range is what we look for in the medium intensity. So 12 units to the acre would be more appropriate for this. Just a couple of excerpts, like I said, mentioned it's actually 7 to 14 units to the acre. So I'm going to give you a description of what the urban medium intensity is. And again, just some pages from the comprehensive plan. And again, property, let's see, it's 3.53 units to the 3.53 acres, 12 units to the acre. That gets you 42 units, or 32 units on the property. So they could actually, not much room on the property to do much more, but they could actually develop a couple more units if they wanted to. So it is staff's opinion that it does, the property request does meet the approval standards. And so we recommend you accept that listed finding and forward the request to City Council with a recommendation for approval.
Okay. And do we have any public comments on item number 6? Did we receive anything?
No. And just as a reminder, we do send out certified letters and regular mail to the property owners to notify them of this action.
There's no public comment. We'll move to questions and comments from the commissioners.
Nothing yet.
Again, straightforward. We've covered this last meeting, and I think we had one the meeting before that.
April.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it makes sense. It just,
Doing
Yeah.
that cleanup.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, if there are no questions or concerns, I'm open to a motion.
I'll move that the planning commission accept the listed finding and forward the zoning map amendment to the city council with recommendation for approval.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Second, and then a roll call vote, please.
Bathke,
Aye.
Willer,
Aye.
Ahern,
Aye.
Janizer,
Aye.
Heisler.
Aye.
Okay. Item number 7, another zoning map amendment. This is north of West Cherry, so the staff presentation.
A very similar location, just a little bit further south on Main Street. Yep, on Main Street. Yes, thank you. North Main Street. Similar presentation, RM21 to RM12, medium, urban medium intensity. So I'll spare you all of that. The only added twist here is I did receive an objection from the property owner. I did chat with Rich Hatch this afternoon. I guess the objection is to preserve a property right for additional development at some point in the future. He indicated he didn't have any intention of developing the property, no immediate intention to develop the property. What I did tell Mr. Hatch is, although I can't certainly promise anything, and hopefully I'm here at the point where they want to redevelop the property, but generally speaking, we've been open to redevelopment if it makes sense, and we would be at some point in the future if the proposal made sense. But in this case, the RM12 time with the 0.33 acres equals 3 units, which is what they currently have, and so we've been basically giving them the zoning that they have. So if at some point they wanted to redevelop or have an additional unit, they could certainly come in and ask for a rezoning. Exact same recommendation, same finding, achieves consistency with approval standards, and we recommend you accept that listed finding and forward the request to City Council with the recommendation for approval.
Thank you. Do I have any public comments on item number 7? If no, we'll move to questions and comments from the commissioners.
I do have a question, Ryan. I was trying to, when I saw the email with the objection, I was trying to game this out a little bit. If that were to stay RM21 with roughly 14,000, 15,000 square feet to work with there, is there a legitimate possibility of squeezing any more units out of a space like that? Unless because he'd be talking about probably assembling some additional properties to be able to.
This is where I think it becomes a perceived development, a perceived development potential that hasn't really been investigated too much, right? From the city standpoint, I'm taking away the potential to develop an additional unit or maybe 2, but without really looking into it. I mean, it'd have to be a demo of the whole site and a reconstruction. So perhaps you could get a 4 or 5 plex on there, but you start to wonder, does it make a whole lot of economic sense to demo an entire property and build brand new for 4 or 5
To
units?
add back another maybe 25%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That was kind of where my thinking was. I just wanted to.
I much prefer to be in the position. Conversions are tough sometimes. New development is much better. I'd love to be in a position of looking at a redevelopment proposal with something that we can look at and have input on throughout that process.
Instead of the theoretical idea of.
Yeah. Sometimes you just kind of end up trying to shoehorn something in, and I mean that's kind of what this development was. We look at conversions like an old house that got converted to a duplex or something like that.
And so this space, is it like a donut again? Everything around it would be the RM12 now?
The only one that would remain RM21, there's 2 parcels kind of to the north. The one immediately to the north was just over 12 units to the acre. And then there's one across the street from Dubuque Street. That was just a little bit over 12 units to the acre as well. Kind of thinking that, we have in the zoning a jump from RM12 all the way to RM21, and we just don't have anything in that middle range. So I may explore looking at doing something kind of in maybe that RM15 range just to get us in that medium range, I think would make sense. And then that would make those, the overall vision for this kind of area of the city is kind of I hesitate to say downtown, kind of more of an uptowny type feel, a little bit more density, but not anything you would expect to be kind of a really dense core. It's more of a medium, but we do want it to be walkable. Obviously, City Hall is going to be there and our civic campus, but in the range of kind of 2 to 3 stories would be appropriate. And again, that medium density, just a higher density like 21 units to the acre just doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense here.
Any other questions, conversation?
Nope.
I acknowledge the landowner's input, but I'm comfortable going forward.
I feel comfortable.
The reality of the size of the parcel is.
Right. Okay. Well, I am open to a motion then.
I'll move that the Planning Commission accept the listed finding and forward the zoning map amendment to the City Council with a recommendation for approval.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And may I have a roll call vote, please?
Janezer,
Aye.
Heisler,
Aye.
Batke,
Aye.
Willer,
Aye.
Ahern.
Aye.
Right. So item number 8, approval of the previous minutes. If no one had any edits or revisions, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the previous minutes.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor of approving, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Great. Old or new business?
Well, if you've taken a look at the calendar, you may notice that July 4th is on the first Tuesday of next month, and there's no other better way that I could think of to celebrate America's birthday with a zoning meeting, but I figure some of us may be out of town, so we are looking for a later date. So we're looking at the I think it's July 18th, so which would be 2 weeks later of squeezing in. I think we have one rezoning that would come through. I've asked if they would be able to delay, but I think they would like to try and squeeze it in this construction season if it gets approved. So we are targeting that 18th of July for that special meeting.
And you'll email us and coordinate that? Perfect. Anything else you see in the queue on the way up for it?
No, we've kind of hit a bit of a lull. So
Knock on wood when you say
yeah,
that.
you get kind of in that spring rush to get for
Mhm.
construction, and then it'll pick back up as we get later in. But typically everything's kind of under construction at this part, so this is kind of expected.
When if we have a meeting on the 18th, that'll be after Barbecue and Blues, so we'll all be able to be out at Centennial Park and see what's out there and the big plans for that in the next few years.
But yeah, and I don't know, Ryan, do you want to share kind of progress on that?
I can. Right now, we are starting a capital campaign, and what we could do actually down the road is I could present an update at an upcoming meeting with some of the plans and drawings. If that's interested.
Well, I
If
think
anyone's
that'd be
interested
interesting.
in that.
Yeah.
Similar to what we did for the City Hall project. I think it was a year or so
Mhm.
ago.
Yeah.
Not to derail this meeting or shorten this meeting, but certainly could give you a little more detail through a presentation.
That would be nice in the future, whatever works for you guys. Especially if we can all get out there during Barbecue and Blues to see.
Yeah. On a night when Ryan has a nice light agenda for us, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You guys decide.
Yeah, July 18th maybe.
Okay, any other old or new? All right, well, I'll probably see you guys all out at Barbecue and Blues, I'm sure. But if there's nothing else, I'd entertain motions to adjourn. I have a motion
I'll move to adjourn.
and a second.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There we go. We're adjourned. Thank you.